Hi, I'm Josh Jackson from Paste Magazine. Welcome to What Do You Love? My guest on the couch today is John C. McGinley, who has a wonderful show called Stand Against Evil, and you know him from so many different things. Welcome so much, John.
Thank you for having me, Josh. Nice to be here.
So the format of the show is to talk about things that you love and give you an opportunity to discuss, whether that's music, movies, whatever, and of course drinks is a part of that. So today, at your request, we have some Rombauer Chardonnay. So
only human, Josh.
this has been sitting open here for a few minutes, and I've resisted because I have never had this before. But our wine writer said, described it as a stick of butter, and
Yes.
so did the guy at the wine shop.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to.
That is an old school, big malolactic, oaky, buttery Cal Chard, which has fallen out of vogue. Now everybody wants everything in a steel cask, and they want it much more minerally. And this is big oak, big butter.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there. So now, are you a big wine guy?
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yes. My wife, for Christmas a couple of years ago, since our cup is full gift-wise, came up with this genius idea. There was a guy who teaches law school out in Santa Monica, and it's learn about wine, and it was completely unpretentious. You couldn't ask a dumb question, so that for those of us who didn't know much about wine, and don't, it was okay. And so the guy would come over the house and have different flights, and you learn that your opinion is completely legitimate, and whatever hits your palate right. And that was very liberating. And so when you're talking to a sommelier at the Fancy Pants restaurant, that it's okay to ask for a taste of something, and if you can't have a taste, then maybe try a different bottle instead of opening a 148 bottle of Pinot that maybe doesn't hit you right. Have a taste.
Yeah. Well,
And that was very
Cheers.
liberating. Cheers, Josh. Thanks for having us.
So we asked you about your musical taste before you got here, and you had a couple albums for us. What do you want to talk about first here?
I would say Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run impacted me in a pretty profound way growing up. By the time in high school, by the time that we were out in the Jersey suburbs. And while we're out there, also Quadrophenia, which I think is the most underrated record in the history of rock and roll. It seems like Tommy gets all the love for being a rock opera. And I thought Tommy was really great, but it didn't hit me the way Quadrophenia did, and how big and how bold Quadrophenia is, and how much in command they are of the whole arc of that story. And Keith Moon, just before he goes insane, is still just driving that record. And as far as Born to Run goes, as a fellow Jersey guy, all of a sudden, and I'd listened to Asbury and I'd listened to Greetings, and that didn't hit me the way all of a sudden, out of nowhere, meeting across the first record on the first cut on the B-side, meeting across the river and Jungle Land and Born to Run, and then going to see Bruce on Broadway, I don't know, 6 or 7 months ago now. That was the greatest theater experience, and it is in a theater, so It doesn't count as a concert, because it's much more theatrical than a concert. Have you gone to see that yet?
I haven't.
It's really rich with storytelling. Yeah. So it's populated by about 11 songs, and the connective tissue between each song is Bruce telling us these stories, much of which are culled from Born to Run, which is the name of the autobiography. And so that is used, he mines that for a lot of it. And having read that and then gone to it, it's seamless. And it's really exciting.
That's fantastic. Well, we just upstairs in the Paste office, we have what we believe is the largest collection of live music tapes. And I brought a couple down today because I thought you'd appreciate this. This is from 1978. You just take a look at the original tape from the Capitol Theater.
Real,
so
right.
This is 3 years We'll get you a nice little shot there. So 3 years after Born to Run came out, it's with several members that would be the E Street Band, and we also.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. And then we also have The Who playing Quadrophenia at the Cow Palace in 1978. So this is not the original tape. This is converted onto that.
Incredible.
But this is the tape that we pulled out of
that blows my
storage and put it on. You can watch it all on.
I know, but that's really cool.
Yeah. So, one of the cool things about this the Quadrophenia concert. Cool in that just a bizarre thing that happened at that particular concert. Keith Moon, rest his soul, was drumming, was on something, middle of the concert, slumped over, and they had to take him off stage. And they pulled up a 17-year-old kid out of the audience to play the drums. Roger Daltrey and Pete were just like, what are we going to do? We don't have a drummer. And some kid from the audience came up and finished the set on drums.
That's not a setup?
No, that was not a setup. That actually happened there. And
that's mind-boggling.
Yeah. So
who was the kid? Did we ever hear from the kid again?
I don't know. I don't know who the kid was.
Wow.
Yeah.
That takes some spine.
Can you imagine just getting pulled up
Nope.
to finish a show like that at age 17?
No.
Yeah.
No. I couldn't imagine. We did a run of Glengarry Glen Ross at the Schoenfeld about when Sandy was here. So what's that, 4.5 years ago now? Mm-hmm. With Al Pacino and Bobby Cannavale, and I got to play Dave Moss, kind of the straw that stirs the drink.
Yeah.
And even so, that would presume that McGinley's in the audience of a different revival, and the guy playing Dave Moss goes down, and they call out to the audience, "Can anybody come up here and fill in?" No.
Yeah.
No.
That's incredible. So you've had such a diverse and interesting career, starting out with Platoon, which there's about to be a documentary
Yes.
on that, Band of Brothers, on that. Can you tell me a little bit about just that first experience on a big movie set?
Well, we flew over to the Philippines, and a lot of this, almost everything I'm going to tell you, will be in Paul Sanchez's documentary called, is it called Band of Brothers?
Band of Brothers.
Band of Brothers. And the first thing we did was they put us in a 3-week boot camp, and most of us, or, those of us from Manhattan, were just kind of theater geeks who went off to do a war movie in revolution-torn Manila. And the dust hadn't even settled from that revolution, and we were relocated to the Philippine Jungle Constabularies Training School, which was in this area of triple canopy jungle. So in other words, there's 3 layers of heights of trees, which yields no light on the jungle floor. Mm-hmm. And lots of things that you might be afraid of, like spiders and horrible snakes. And all of a sudden, we were in this boot camp, and there was nothing really to eat other than these MREs, these meal ration component kits that
Mm-hmm.
were horrible. And there was nothing really to drink. And we were kind of supposed to dress up and be soldiers. And as much as you might have gone into it kicking and screaming, or not at all, maybe you went into it completely lending yourself to it, it was still preposterous. But then that started to diminish, and the buy-in was pretty quick. And then that would get on you, and you'd start to wear that. And 3 weeks later, we were shooting, and in the 3 weeks, things happened. Things changed. You couldn't keep body weight. You got sick. You got homesick. You were filled with doubt. You were scared. And guess what? That's what every guy who went to Southeast Asia was. Mm-hmm. And Oliver integrated all of that into when he called action. Mm-hmm. And now that you weren't acting, you were scared. You were a long way from home. And so the actors hopefully could make that last bit of imaginary leap into being an infantry soldierman, because you were wearing about 90% of it. Not that you were an infantry soldierman, not that you ever were responsible for participating in an armed conflict, but the actors, the leap that they could make, the width of that leap was reduced.
Yeah, you were in a new environment. You felt it.
So were all those soldiers.
Yeah,
all those brave guys who went over there, and that was Oliver's in for this ensemble of actors, and it yielded profound dividends.
It was an incredible film, and from there you had a career doing mostly dramatic roles. And I interviewed Bill Lawrence several years ago, and I can't remember if he told me or if I just read it in preparation, but he said with Dr. Cox that he was looking for a John C. McGinley type character.
It was in the script.
Yeah,
it was in the stage notes.
Yeah,
and they sent it to me, and I had to. God, this is so funny. I had to audition for that piece like 6 times.
Even though it was based. They're
looking for John McGinley type, and I'm like,
I'm a John McGinley.
I went in to meet Billy, and I said, I'm Johnny C. And he goes, yeah, but we're going to have to jump through a lot of hoops because the producing entity was Disney, and then the exhibiting entity was NBC.
Yeah.
And in television, whether you like it or not, and you probably know as well as I do, there are a lot of chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And you have to scratch a lot of backs because everyone thinks they're a decision maker. They're not, but you have to climb that ladder in the hierarchy of network television. And so I did, because I knew how delicious the role was and how stunning Billy was from the minute I met him. And I wanted to be in it. And this is going to sound really counterintuitive, but having a gig in Los Angeles is now become an anomaly. You get cast in something and then you go away. Hardly anything is shot in Los Angeles anymore with the advent of mostly sitcoms going away. That used to be most of the work on those sound stages at Warner and at Paramount. You know, Frasier was at Paramount, Friends and stuff was over at Warner Brothers. There's not that many of them left.
Yeah.
And Scrubs was a single camera. We shot it like a film. And so Billy said, you're probably not going to want to do all this dog and pony stuff. I'm like, yes, I do. This I'll do it for. This is really great.
Yeah, and it was.
And Billy nailed it.
And now you have your own show, Stand Against Evil, about to kick off a 3rd season.
Unbelievable.
I got to watch one of the episodes, episode 3, last night at
Fantastic.
New York. And what is it like now to continue that comedy role, but to have this great horror comedy that you get to be sort of first name in the.
The most important part about being able to be a producer on Stand Against Evil is being able to shepherd the tone of the piece as meticulously as Dana Gould, who's the executive producer of Stand Against Evil. We're on this exact same frequency that the tone of Stan is everything. And what I mean is the high concept on Stand Against Evil, for those who haven't seen it, is Archie Bunker fighting witches. But where it lives is somewhere like where American Werewolf in London, the one that you and I grew up watching, not some other remake. But the original lives somewhere, and Stan does too, between these wildly opposite ends of a spectrum of horror, The Exorcist, where it's super scary but you can't drop a joke, and Scooby-Doo, where it's funny but the monsters are largely declawed. Yeah. And Stan, like an American Werewolf in London, wants to have the witches really scary, but the jokes land without the jokes cannibalizing or declawing the witches, and without the witches completely having a sledgehammer effect on any joke. That's hard.
And it is a unique tone. I don't think I've seen anything quite. I mean, there's horror comedy out there,
but it's hard because if you get lazy for 2 seconds and drop a really delicious 14-syllable joke that completely kneecaps the witch, now we have no conflict. And what are we doing in this episode? Yeah. And so that's the landscape that we've tried to navigate really, really meticulously, and it's working.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming here. And
thanks for the delicious glass of wine.
I do have to show that I picked this up at the.
That says to me, that's Stan in Stand Against Evil. Yeah. That just tells me, Johnny C., you have arrived.
You have arrived. So I have to Pop this.
I'm going out as Stan against Evil. That's a good look.
I look a lot better now. Yeah.
I'm going out as Stan for Halloween. That's how I'm answering the door.
That's fantastic.
I won't have to grow the facial hair back, and it's all right there.
Great. Well, thank you so much for
My pleasure.
joining us today.
Lovely.
Congrats on the new show.
Cheers, brother.
All right, cheers.
Thanks for having me.